What's happening, guys? Welcome to Let's Talk Comics, and today we are going to talk about Heroescon 2001. When I went to the shop yesterday to pick up my books, the owner was in there and he said he heard me talking about that I had just come back from Heroescon, and he said that he found this program in a recent long box of back issues that he had bought, and he gave it to me. So I thought it would be really cool to kind of thumb through it and see who was at Heroescon in 2001. I have only been going to Heroescon consistently or regularly for about the last 20 years. So this was, although I did go one time, I think I went one time in 97 or 98, something like that. But I really became a regular once I got the job I'm at now and actually had money to play with. And instead of fighting poverty and losing for the first time in my life, I had extra money. So only about the past 20 years have I been a regular of Heroescon. So we'll go ahead and crack this thing open, take a look at it. And it already, I thumbed through it already before I started, before I decided to do this video. And it's such a thick program compared to what they have now. You know, I guess it's because they have less, I guess it's because back then they had less creators and everything, and less of it was a smaller scale, I imagine, back then. So right here we got a cool Orion and Thor sketch by Walt Simonson. We've got a little welcome back here from Shelton. He puts on the con. Cool pose of the Vision. We have a little story right here about the Avengers. This is very interesting to see that they have this in the program. Look at this. There's like 3 pages of Avengers history and rundown. This is really cool that this is in a program for the con. And he even gives, this guy who wrote this, Steve Saffel, he even gives a thanks to writers and writers like Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, Stern, Shooter. The Avengers have maintained an exceptional standard for excellence for nearly 40 years. This is really cool right here. And then the world famous art auction. Now it's on Saturday. It's on Saturday nights. Here they have it on Sunday at 3 o'clock. This looks like a little promo for a company called Gaijin Studios. Never heard of them. Looks like a Adam Hughes Tomb Raider. Greg Land, Nightwing. Deadpool right here. It would be really cool to have this program in 2001 and go around and get everyone to sign it. Of course, back then, everyone was signing for free, so now this would cost you probably $1,000 to get everybody to sign it. And then, of course, they got an ad for the blood drive, which they're still doing to this day. Tony Harris's Starman. Oh, look at that. This illustration was done for the American Red Cross by Heroescon guest Nick Cardy. I had a chance to meet Nick Cardy at a Heroescon years and years and years ago and got him to sign my Women of the DC Universe. He's a very interesting guy to talk to. He's also a World War II veteran. Outside of doing a lot of work for DC. So now we've got a couple of the guests. Now we get into the guest section of it. Andrew Robinson, John Calvin Smith, J.D. Mettler. None of those names really stand out to me. Drew Johnson. Of course, Alan Davis. I've met him before at Heroescon. Alan Davis is a guy that's got a pretty unique resume. He really has been all over the place in his work. You know, from getting started out, or some of his early stuff like Miracle Man, to doing Avengers, to doing Excalibur, which is what I associate him with most, is Excalibur. He did the Marvel UK book, Clandestine. Bob Albman, Greg Adams, Al Bigley, Mark Bagley, who was there again this year. This was him doing, what's that? Wasp, Thor, Hulk. Mark Bagley also won the Marvel tryout book. The previously mentioned Nick Cardy. Rich Case. Frank Bruner. She-Hulk and Hulk. Dave DeVry. Steve Butler. Sanford Green with a Youngblood. Is that who that? No, that's not Youngblood. That looks like the West Coast Avengers team. That's Hawkeye when he was in his super tech outfit. A really cool Captain America Nick Fury right here. Jamal Eagle. I know him mostly from Supergirl. He did a lot of work on that book. Mike Huffman. Rich Larson. Phil Jimenez. Now, a lot of you will know Phil Jimenez from having done work on Wonder Woman, and also some, I want to say he did a Legion and Teen Titans crossover book. But Phil Jimenez, in the spirit of George Perez, does incredibly beautiful covers featuring thousands and thousands of characters. So the crowd shot, that's right up Phil Jimenez's alley, just like it was with George Perez. Then we've got a Walt Simonson colorized piece. I don't know who this little centerfold is supposed to be. More George Perez. Nat Jones. Bobby Nash Jr., Jeff Austin, Casey Jones, not to be confused with the Ninja Turtles guy. Bill Neville, Bob Layton, obviously incredibly associated with New Mutants, his work on New Mutants, and Iron Man. Robin Riggs, Pop Mon, Norman Lee, not familiar with those. Dave Miller, Phil Noto. Phil Noto was here? I didn't even know Phil Noto was in the game in 2001. He was supposed to be at Heroescon this year, but he was a last-minute cancel. Dave Tata, Michael Avon Oming. I know him from the Brian Michael Bendis book Powers, which is a really, really underrated book and probably some of Bendis' best stuff. Laston Wallace, I'm unfamiliar with. Paul Pope, he passed away a few years ago. You might know him from a handful of Batman projects, one-shots, and miniseries he did. Mike Waringo, he was another guy who's passed away. You would probably know him. Most people would probably know him from Flash with Mark Waid and Fantastic Four with Mark Waid. Marie Severin, wow. She is a long-time original Marvel bullpen member. Carl Waller, George Tuska, He was an OG that did a whole lot of work on Iron Man. He was on Iron Man way back in the day, back when he was using transistors. Neil Vakes, I don't know him. John Betty, I recognize his name as Inks with Mike Zeck. Randy Green, Rick Ketchum, Jimmy Gownley, I'm sorry. Chris Bruner, that name sounds familiar. Chris has done pencils on X, Dark Horse Presents, and Star Wars. Watch for his upcoming story in Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. James Lau did a very beautiful Batgirl right there. Dexter Vines, Tim Townsend. Tom Fleming, he has come into my local comic book shop a handful of times, and he is on a first name basis with the guy who runs it. From Black and White Beauty to Boldly Colored Excitement. Giving a shout out to the inkers. So now I guess we have right here kind of a rundown of everyone who's going to be there. So before they had booths and everything, they just had like a generic name of everyone put on here. Hey, look how small Joe Quesada's name is right there. Julie Swartz, Uncle Julie. Kelly Yates. Who else is on this list? Dave Mack from Kabuki. Scott Hanna, inker on Detective. And then we got the Artist Alley stuff right here. Look, Shane Davis just starting out in the Artist Alley before blowing up. And then we've got what looks to be, yeah, see, this is what the floor looked like in 2001. That's so small, man. That is so small as compared to what it is now. Then you've got all the panels and everything. Oh, look, portfolio review by DC Comics editor. Whew. Another portfolio review from Bob Layton. Man, to do that now, that would be, I would love to see people do portfolio review now, but they just, from what I've heard, they just take so long to do, and a lot of people get really offended when you tell them that, kid, you don't have it. You don't have it right now. Nothing you've put on this page is good. I know Neil Adams used to be very famous for his portfolio reviews and not pulling any punches in it. And look, they even have card gaming schedule. Already confirmed for 2002. Perez passed. Carlos Pacheco passed. God, so many of these guys are already gone. I think that's part of the reason why you see lines so long at people's booths, is people really started passing away kind of steady and regularly, and people were just like, oh my God, I gotta get that stuff in now. I gotta meet these guys now, get them to sign my stuff or they're gone. So I think that kind of really snapped everybody into getting books signed and getting their photo ops and everything. But that is a look at the Heroescon 2001, everyone that was in attendance. So that was really cool. I'm glad the guy who ran my shop set this aside for me. It's a really nice trip down memory lane, and it's kind of crazy to see how big Heroes has gotten in the past 25 years or whatever. So till next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye bye.